So discussions have become a little bit one-dimensional these days. Everybody is talking about the coronavirus. So today I want to give you a few tips of how you can lead your teams during those tough times and that you don't end up like this.
In stage one, we say nothing is going to happen.
Stage two, we say something may be going to happen, but we should do nothing about it.
In stage three, we say that maybe we should do something about it, but there's nothing we can do.
Stage four, we say maybe there was something we could have done, but it's too late now.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief.
So in this video we cover 3 tips on how to react as a leader in tough times, in times of a crisis. So tip number 1 is start at the beginning. As you know, I'm also an airline pilot and I just finished watching Trevor Noah's show and he made a funny comment about pilots. And he talked about how he feels more comfortable when pilots reassure him at the beginning of the flight what is about to happen. So you're much better off telling your passengers when you welcome them on board that maybe during the period of the flight there will be some clear air turbulence ahead and it might be a little bit bumpy. Now we as pilots sometimes disregard those reports. They are very unreliable and it's very hard to predict. But surely enough, if we get reports that are, at least to us, looking very reliable, then we share that with the passengers because it's much easier for a passenger to go through a period of turbulence, which by the way is completely safe and there is actually nothing to worry about. It's much easier for a passenger to accept that when they know about it rather than sitting in a flight and suddenly it becomes bumpy. Now, you as a leader can do the same. So the next time something comes up, even something small, something that you don't believe will evolve into something big, just table it. Make it a topic in your team meetings or in your town hall meetings. And it's perfectly valid to say that you personally are not worried about it and maybe also point out the reasons why you believe that. But it gives you an advantage for the future because if for whatever reason the situation changes and if for whatever reason that topic becomes much bigger than you expected, then at least you have prepared your team, your employees, your staff for that situation. So what is tip number 2 that you should consider as a leader during a crisis? Communicate, communicate, communicate. It's interesting that the reason why communication is so vital in times of a crisis is very much the same as it is when you are not in a crisis. And as it stands, we already don't do enough of that in regular times. And that is to explain to everyone what the purpose of an organization is, why you are serving the customers, what you are trying to achieve, and how it all fits together in the bigger picture. And think about it, in times of a crisis, everybody may be scattered. They may have to deal with very urgent issues that have nothing to do with their regular day-to-day job. And it's very easy to forget what the purpose is. It's very easy to forget how we need to still care for our clients, for our customers. It's still very important to understand why we are doing the jobs that we are doing. And if you as a leader can instill that sense of purpose, then you are also able to instill a sense of joy and of pride in that work. And that will help your productivity during those tough times. The other part to consider during the time of crisis is that inevitably productivity goes down. And maybe people get scared of that. Maybe people fear for their jobs. Maybe people fear of the repercussions that drop in productivity has on their own lives, but also your assessment of their performance. And rather than complaining about it, maybe it's time to celebrate it. Put it out there in the open that productivity is going down, and put it out there that maybe you personally are not concerned about that, but that maybe you are expecting them to think about the bigger picture. Maybe you can't do everything that you do in the normal course of business, but you can think about how the business looks like in the future. And you can use that time of lower productivity to actually cover off some of the bits and pieces that before you just didn't have the time to do. And finally, number 3, focus on an outlook. In times of a crisis, it's very easy to get lost in the moment, and your mind starts to worry about things, and your mind starts to just focus on the tasks that are at hand right now. And you start to lose a little bit of perspective of what is going to happen in the future. Again, that has a major impact on productivity during those times. Now, even if you are not a leader in your company right now, you are the leader of your life. And so all these tips you can translate to your own life as well. And if you do that, if you take those things into your personal life, there are a few thoughts that I would like to leave you with. Number 1, some of the things that will recover may take more time than you might have expected. Maybe in your mind you're thinking about, well, once we are out of isolation and once we can go onto the streets again and once we can do all the things again, the business will be back just like that, straight away. Well, it was a fairly big impact to the finance industry. We've seen a lot of stock market crashes, a lot of concern in the companies as well, and it may take a while to actually bring it back to life and bring it back to the same stage as we've been before. So be patient and plan for that in your life as well. Second thing I would leave you with is stay proactive. We have seen a lot of support from governments around the world. Here in the UK as well, we've heard that there are certain guarantees for salaries and so on and so forth. And that's great, and that helps a lot of people in these tough times. But we shouldn't forget that all of these things have to be paid at some stage. They may come through inflation, they may come through higher taxes, they may come through other things that the government will think about. And so you should stay proactive in your life as well and make sure that even in those tough times that you go through right now, you still plan for the future, both financially and professionally. But on a much more positive note, there's 2 things that are really important to me. And number 1 is the industry itself hasn't changed. Yes, we got a virus. Yes, we had to do business and lead our lives in a slightly different way than we had done before. But once we've dealt with that, the industry itself hasn't fundamentally changed. And for you and I, that means that once we get out of it, while it may take a while, we are fairly convinced that we can slot back into our normal lives, can slot back into our normal jobs or into our professions or into our passions. Second part of that is there may be great learning points that we've had over the last few weeks, but fundamentally how we build a business and how we run a business hasn't changed either. And I think it's a great comfort for us that even though we may look around right now and we may see that people are no longer outside and they can't do X, Y, and Z, there will be a time again when all of that is possible. When we do see people sitting outside, when we do see people going to cafes, when we do see again people writing their blogs in this nearby Starbucks, when we do see people going to work, driving around, and we become mad because the rush hour traffic is so bad. Despite all of that, I would like to encourage you by that simple truth that the industry itself and the business and how we run a business has not fundamentally changed over the past few weeks. So those are a few thoughts on leadership in a crisis this week. If you do enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing to this channel. I blend in a few videos that may also relate to the topic. In the meantime, please stay safe. I will see you soon.
Tell me, do you feel the same?